All right, I think we're live. Let me see if we can see friends on here. 1 second. Technology, I always have to double check it. Let's see. It says it's pre-live. We'll give it a second to see if it joins.
Okay.
How are you
Just,
doing today?
I am excellent. And how are you?
I am wonderful. I am wonderful. I'm taking a moment to collect my thoughts, organize my brain. We are live.
All right.
We see folks here. Excellent. Very good. Welcome everyone. I'm so excited to have everybody here. I'm open up the chat so I can see what's going on over here. Um, I just take a moment to introduce myself and my amazing co-author, Melissa Cohen. I'm Cindy Goodwin-Sak. I am the founder and CEO of Valiant Leadership. Melissa, would you like to introduce yourself?
I think you need a longer intro than that, my friend, but sure. I'm Melissa Cohen. I am a personal brand and LinkedIn strategist. I help people to find their voice, build their brand, and build their business here on LinkedIn. And after a 30-year career in fashion, this is my pivot. So this book means a lot to me because I think we all recognize that our careers are no longer linear and we have a lot of work to do to make our careers everything that we want them to be.
That is wonderful. I appreciate that. That's fantastic. So, I am noticing that I don't see comments from our folks on LinkedIn. So, please continue if you have comments to please continue sharing them, and I will. 1 moment. I will find a way for us to check in on those comments. In the meantime, we're just going to continue. Um, Melissa and I wanted to share a little bit this year about just checking in and creating our own goal. We'll try that again. Words are hard today. Um,
Words are tough.
Words are hard today. Yeah, creating our own goals for 2025, and we talk a lot about goal setting in the book that we recently published, Your Career Resilience Blueprint. So we wanted to just share with everyone our own strategies around creating goals. And so, um, Melissa, I would just to check in briefly with you, like, what are your thoughts on creating goals in general, and then goals for 2025?
Yeah, I don't think the importance of goal setting can be overstated, right? I'm not going to get the saying right, but like, what gets measured gets results. There's some
Yeah,
saying, right?
yeah.
Words are hard for me today too, and it's super, super important. It's important whether you work for yourself or whether you work as part of an organization, whether you're the leader of a team, whatever your role in life. It's really important to set goals because that's how you will track your own progress. That is how you will motivate yourself. That's how you'll motivate your teams. And if we're going to talk about goal setting for teams, actually, I take that back. Any form of goal setting. I think a crucial piece of goal setting that we all tend to miss is checking in on those goals. I
Mm,
can't tell you how many times when I was in corporate, we as leaders would set goals for our teams, or we would get goals from our managers. And the next time we would look at them again was at the annual review. And
uh,
that is just one
and what
terrible.
was the point? Yeah, what was the point of setting a goal?
What was the point? So I think it's really critical that when we're setting goals and when we're setting goals with others, we have regular touch points and regular check-ins to see the progress against these goals and
Mm,
adjusting them as needed. Right? I think that's a really important point too is a goal does not have to be finite and set in stone. It might need to be tweaked. It might need to be eliminated completely, right? Priorities can change and things might
mhm.
not be serving us anymore the way that they were when we initially set that goal. And so really keeping that top of mind and checking in regularly is important.
I love that. I love that. And sort of focusing in when you and I put our heads together to talk about like what we would want to share with LinkedIn or our community, we talked about company goals are going to happen. Like you just said, like you set goals for the team, for the organization. Company goals are going to happen because that's part of the normal corporate cycle. But often we as participants in the corporate structure, or we as individuals forget our own goal setting, right? So our own career goals, our own personal goals, and then our team's goals that may not align with the company, but actually might be personal or professional goals. So I think that's why, it's another reason we wanted to revisit this, because corporations will be setting calendar goals or fiscal goals or whatever they're doing. But I think it's important that we focus on ourselves as well, because yeah, we own our own careers, right? So um, when you think about the goals that you set for 2025 or going to set, so it's not fair to say you've set them, because I haven't set mine. Um, how do you go about setting your goals? Like, where do you start?
Yeah, so I have not yet set my goals for 2025. With full transparency, my birthday is in December, and I always choose my birthday as the sort of kickoff point for goal setting, right? Because it's a very natural place for me to look back on the previous year. Where am I compared to where I was on my birthday last year? What do I feel good about? What do I feel not so good about? And what do I want to focus on for the coming year? So that's coming soon in a couple of weeks. I think it's really important to, as you said, not only set business oriented goals, right? Those are super critical. They absolutely are. But for me personally, I really like to look at things holistically, right? And I
Mhm.
think it's important to set personal goals as well. And those could be around upskilling, right? That's something that I try to set a goal for myself every year. What's a skill that I want to work on, or something that I want to learn? Something that's going to help me in my business, or something that's just going to help me in general. And I think it's also really important to set a personal goal. It might be around our health, it might be around mindfulness, it might be around wellness, because those things contribute to how we perform in the office, in our business, in our day to day lives, right? If you're constantly exhausted, if you're burned out, if you're stressed, you're not going to perform as well. And so, even when I led teams in corporate, it was always really important to me that I asked the team to set a personal goal as well, something that wasn't necessarily just aligned with business KPIs, but something that was just for them.
That's fantastic. And we actually do have a comment. Hi, Kenneth. It's great to see you as well.
Um,
um, so my own, wait a minute, before I go there, your birthday, you said it's in December. Will you share
yes.
with us the day?
It is Pearl Harbor Day, if you're old enough to know what that is.
Oh,
So
all right.
it is the 7th.
Thank you.
Where?
Okay, sorry, that's something I keep track of. So
It's all good.
I'm like, oh, I got new information. So uh I don't my birthday is not in December. But I do try to, when I set goals at the end of the year or the beginning of the year, I try to project, like, what do I want to be at the end of the year? Because I consider us works in process or progress or services in progress, right? Like, we are a marketable service, and like, whether it be to corporation or to other businesses, I see us as marketable services. And so um, but also like human, like, we also have personal sides. And so, like you, I try to do it in a well-rounded way, but I usually pull up my list of values, and then I pull up, then I sort of try to come to some sort of vision of who I want to be in the following year, and or who do I want to be at the end of the year, like if I were to describe myself. And I got this terrible exercise, maybe terrible, I don't know, if you were to give your own obituary. Have you done that one?
No,
I
no, thank
know, a little dark,
you. It's a
but
little too
but
morbid for me.
yeah, but like, if you were to describe give your own obituary, what would you want people to say about you? And if you go through that exercise repeatedly, it actually, for me, helps me figure out who I want to be. And that changes, but who do I want to be, and what do I need to do to get there so that that becomes reality? So for me, goal setting is very much about the person I want to become, the growth I want to go through, the changes I want to make, or the changes I want to sustain at the end of the year. So um, in our book, we do talk about the ways to build your career, the ways to build a successful plan. And we talk about three things. We talk about network skills and brand. Um, Have you given any thought to your own like evolution, understanding SMART goals? We're not ready for SMART goals. We'll talk about that in a minute, but have you given any thought to where you might see growth or change about one of those three aspects of your brand in 2025?
Yeah, so I think all three are critical, right? And, brand is very near and dear to my heart, right? And I think it's important for people to know that, much like I was saying earlier on, that our goals will change over time and need to be checked in on and need to be a little bit flexible. Our brand is going to change over
Mm.
time too, right? And when you were talking about the writing your own obituary exercise, which is really a little morbid, um, but to me, that's your brand, right? Your brand is, what do you want people to think about you? What do you want people to say about you? We usually kind of say when you're not in the room, not when you're no longer
Mm.
on this earth, but it's okay. It's
Okay.
the same. It's the same concept, right? How do you want to show up? And so definitely that's something that I'm giving a lot of thought to. It's something that has changed a lot over the past year, right? Who I am as a person hasn't changed and my core values haven't changed, but how I want people to perceive me has definitely evolved significantly over the last year. And I think it will continue to. And I don't think we can ever, ever underestimate the importance of, hey, Shanedra, of our network, right? Our network is everything. And I don't know that I would say I have a goal around my network, at least not right at the current moment, other than to keep growing it and to keep
Mm.
serving it, right? And I think the second one is really, really important. If we just look at our network as, who can I connect with? How can they help me? What can I get
Mm.
from them? That it's not the right way to look at it, and it's not going to serve you in the long term. I look at my network as, what relationships can I form and what relationships can I create for other people, right? I love connecting people with people and finding people who can help one another and who can fit pieces for one another. And that's a huge goal for me with my network, is just how can I help people to find one another and form relationships that are going to bear fruit for both of them.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm obviously I go to you for all things brand. And I'm gonna need some help with that here again. But the area that I'm focusing on in the next year is network. And it's largely because as I try to drive a specific idea forward, I have an idea that I want to execute. And that idea is a little bit, I think, a little bit disruptive. I need to access a different group of people, and for me, I need to understand what it is that they need. And it's not that I'm necessarily selling something to them. It's that I want them to test my idea and give me feedback. Is it real? Does this fit into your wheelhouse? So um, I also am focusing on the network, but largely around, I think I have an idea that can help them accomplish their goal. But I don't do their job every day. So, what can I learn from them? How can they teach me about what it is that they do? And can I come to a better understanding of how potentially my idea might serve their market? So, I also have some goals. I haven't, like you said, I haven't built any SMART goals. And we haven't defined SMART. Do you want to do it, or you want me to attempt to remember? Because we didn't write it down. Specific, measurable. Is it actionable?
Attainable, I believe. Attainable,
Attainable.
relevant, and time bound.
Timely. Thank you.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
been ingrained into my mind from many years in corporate.
I
But
love
I
it.
think that's a smart, pun intended, way to look at goal setting, right?
Yeah,
Because if your goals are too vague, if your goals are, there's a difference between a goal and a wish, right? Or a goal and a dream.
right,
If your goal is too far reaching, it makes it really hard, right? And so, can you break that down into smaller goals that you can work towards over time? If you
right.
make the goal too lofty, it actually can be counterproductive because you feel that you can't get there and you get frustrated and you walk away from it. So, That's really important. And a big one for me is time bound, right? You have to kind of set an intention as to when are you going to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
Because if it's just too open ended, you always have an excuse, right?
Right, for sure. And I think so if we talk about I was going to say fiscal 25,
Yeah.
2025 goals. Sorry. Habits are hard to break. 2025 goals, an annual goal might be too much, right? Or you set an annual goal, but it's easy to walk away from an annual goal. You might have sub goals, right? For to help you incrementally get there, right? So I think that's great. The other concept that came to me, I was just as I was thinking this morning, was the why of your goal. I found that that's really important. I did not actually recognize that until maybe this morning. but like why you set a goal. Like tell me a little bit about um when you set a goal, do you ever write down why next to it? I never have, and I've just realized that that might be important to me going forward. Like what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's super interesting. And no, I don't believe I actually ever have
Yeah.
either. So that's super interesting. And it goes back a little bit to what I was saying about the importance of setting a personal goal, right? And so
Mhm.
why set a personal goal if we're really like, here to talk about our business goals or our company goals? Because setting that personal goal will help you to achieve those business goals and it makes you a better, more well-rounded person, right? I like cliches a lot, right? I think cliches are cliches for a reason, right? You can't pour from an
Right.
empty cup. All the things that we hear all the time, they're true. And so you can't serve others if you're depleted. You can't do your best work if you're exhausted. And so I do think the why matters. And no, I really
Yeah.
haven't necessarily written that down. So you might have given me something new to think
Yeah.
about when I set my goals this year too.
I'm pretty sure I got it from a podcast this morning, and when I figure out which one it was, I hate it when I don't give attribution. I will when I find it, I'll put it on LinkedIn somewhere. But
Yeah.
yeah, like, and I was thinking about that this morning when I saw it. So Donnie, uh, is it Bovin? How do you
Yes.
pronounce it? Okay,
Levine, I
Bovin.
believe. Levine, yeah.
Bovin. Um, Donnie posted about struggling to go back to the gym after an event. And I was like, I've been struggling with this for 2 months. He had the courage to say it out loud. I did not. And but when I thought about it in the context of our goal setting, and all that, I thought, I think I lost my why for why I was doing it. Cause I do love exercise, but I had just lost the concept and everything else. So um
I think
with
you said
it just
something important there, though.
yeah,
Not to interrupt you. Um,
please.
I think you said something really important, right? That this thought was inspired by somebody else posting something on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
right? And so I think that's really important. I think it's really important that we think about. Sometimes we think, oh, nobody cares what I have to say, or what I have
Hmm.
to say, it doesn't really matter. It does. And when we can share things like this, we really help each other, right? We help each other to think differently. It gave you a really important thought, right, about
Hmm.
your own goal setting. And so I just encourage people to really have these conversations with your network, have these conversations with your team, right? When you're
Yeah.
setting goals for your team, I think sometimes we're so focused on the business aspects of it, but when you have these open conversations and there's some emotional honesty there, you really can achieve great things and set more meaningful goals. And I think that's really important.
Absolutely. And thank you, Dr. Kimberly. I totally agree. Anytime we feel like we're getting too comfortable, it's probably means we've stopped growing. We need to do a little inspection. That is such a great comment. Melissa, you talked about team. So let's talk about teams a little bit and team goals. Like we um, in corporate often set team goals that are very business oriented. But you talked about personal goals for team. And I think uh, more and more companies are tightening the belt, they're, pinching pennies. There's a lot of pressure on companies for many different reasons, but a lot of companies are feeling the need to constrain their budgets. And that shows up, I think, in promotions, um, in bonuses, that kind of thing. So actually encouraging our team members to set personal goals and professional goals that are not necessarily exactly related to the team is showing an investment in them as an individual and that we value them and their growth. And I would love to just hear a little bit about your experience. And you talked about having your team set personal goals. Like, how did that pay? I don't want to call it payback. It's not transition. It's not a transaction, right? But it's an investment in
Mhm.
your team. So how did that pay off, I guess, in the end for you?
I mean, I think it pays off twofold, right? One, I know that people really care when they know you really care, right?
Mhm.
People are going to work harder for you because they see that you care about them as individuals, right? And you care about their well being. And so I always made it a point to know what my team was doing in their personal lives, right? And I don't mean that in a creepy way. I mean that in what motivates them? What are their
Mhm.
interests? What is their family? Do they have kids? What do their kids like to do? What are their kids working on? Not enough people have these conversations and don't get to know each other as people, right? Not just as team members. And so it'll give an ROI that way. But it also, as you said, unfortunately, companies don't have limitless dollars, right? And we've
Mhm.
all been in those board meetings where you have a certain dollar amount that you're capped on, and that dollar amount has to be spread across your entire team. And, if somebody gets a promotion, then that reduces that pool dramatically, right? And so, what do you do for the rest of the people who, deserve recognition, but they might not be able to get that big promotion? And so, I think really encouraging our teams to invest in their personal development. And that's something that the organization can do for a much
Mhm.
lower cost, right? So maybe we can't give you a promotion, but can we give you some money to invest in personal development, whatever that might look like, right? Coursework you might want to take, tuition reimbursement. Some companies even can do health and wellness reimbursement, right? Gym memberships, things along those lines. And when we have these conversations, people really recognize that you see them as a holistic person and that their mental and physical well-being is important, right? It's not just
Mhm.
what they deliver to the bottom line, but what are they delivering to themselves? Are they a
Right.
healthier, more well-rounded person?
That's fantastic. That's great. I was thinking about your comment on investing in a course for them, right, or investing in their own growth. And I know as a manager or leader, I found myself several times where uh, a team member wanted a specific course, and in tech, these courses can be like eight, $10,000, and that's just like I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Um, that's a lot of a lot of money in a lot of cases, right? Even for big companies. So, but when we look at the framework that we offer of skills, network, brand, stretch assignments are actually a brilliant way to do that, to invest in someone's growth. When you find an intersection between someone's passion and a project that needs to be done, um, and they get to work with people outside their team, so they build a network in their organization, and they get to demonstrate their work, creating a brand, and they get to learn new skills and the concept. I think that is a way that we often forget is an amazing development opportunity for our teams. Is that I, and maybe that is cultural by corporation. Is that something that, in your experience, corporations like in the corporations you've worked for in the past, um, stretch assignments have been a natural part of it for your companies?
Um, yes and no. Sometimes more so than others. I do think it's a little bit ingrained in the organization. I think that you nailed it. It does have a lot of benefits. It's a no
Mhm.
cost way to
Right,
give people exposure to different teams, different projects, different cross-functional partners. And so I encourage people, if your organization doesn't offer that, volunteer for one. And
right,
ideally, if you can even um, suggest what that project might be, right? You might see, sometimes we can't see things because we're too close to them, right? Or we're too
right.
far away from them. So if you see a void in your organization that you want to help solve that problem, propose that to your manager. I would be shocked if it wasn't well received. Another thing that I've seen organizations do, and this is definitely needs to be more structured, but it's something that I've experienced, is job rotations, right? Letting people who are at the same level switch roles, right? So if you're in a big enough organization that has different divisions, different brands, different, segments, you can get to experience completely different cross-functional partners, completely different opportunities, and it can be for a finite period of time, right? It might be a 6-month rotation or a 1-year rotation, whatever that might look like. Again, it's a low to no cost way to let people really have a different experience.
I spent 18, 20 years in sales. So, and we tried every way, shape, and form possible to create job rotation programs, and we couldn't do it. We just couldn't do it because of goal sheets, right? Commission statements.
Mm.
And, but we didn't let that get in the way. Uh, the stretch assignments are a great way to do it. And I find there's really no excuse. There's always a problem to solve,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a million problems to solve. Um, but also, there can be job shadowing,
Yeah.
right? It's a great way. Again, you can build skills, the network, right? You take a couple of weeks away from your day job, in the end, and if you distribute it amongst your team, so lots of people are job shadowing. It's a great way to build empathy. Like it was always in a tech company, it's always sales versus product. Like you're
Yeah.
not building the right product. Well, you're not selling the product we have. Like it's a great product. You're not selling, right? It's a great way to build empathy for the other folks as well and to better understand.
I
So,
couldn't agree more, and, I think that's a really important point. So I think about when I was in corporate, I
mhm,
was in the fashion industry, I was in product development and production, right, like, on the manufacturing side, and you're right, there was often this, push-pull of, well, we want this certain aesthetic and we want this certain fabric, and then, there was the merchandising and the business side of it all saying,
right,
"Yes, but we need to be at this price, and we need to be at this
right,
retail, and we have to be at this margin," and so it really is important to gain empathy for one another, right? And to kind of come to that common ground of,
mhm,
you know, we're solving this for you and we're solving that for you, and we have to all come together and find that balance. And if you don't understand what another team is doing and what their goals are and what their objectives are, it is very hard to do that. So I think that's a great.
right. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So I'm going to put you on the spot in a moment, but I'm going to put myself on the spot first. A goal for 2025. I have to go back and look at my goals for 2024. I think I've accomplished most of them. There is one goal I intentionally walked away from.
Mhm.
I'll just tell everybody I was going to do a High Rocks event. It's an athletic event. I intentionally chose not to do it because um, life got in the way and something had to go. And I decided that was the thing that was going to go, not my family, not my other stuff. So I walked away from one, and I feel good about it. But I think a goal for next year, one of my goals that I accomplished was that we published a book, and I'm
Yeah.
super excited about it. I have a goal for next year to publish another book. We'll see how that's. So I'm just throwing that out into the ether. I'm curious. Do you have a goal? And at the same time, to give you another couple seconds to think about it, I'm going to show a question as well. So you're welcome to either share your goal or talk about this question.
It's a great question, which I'm going to let you answer because I think
Okay.
you'll answer that well. Goal for 2025. So, I recently pivoted. My first career pivot was consulting in the fashion space. My second career pivot is what I'm doing now. And I really want to sort of refine the offerings that I have, think
Mhm,
about who I'm working with, how I'm showing up for them, building out some new aspects of the business. So that's a business goal.
mhm.
And a personal goal is something I've been working on. Well, I have two things I could talk about. I really, it's an ongoing goal, right? And it's the kind of goal that is always going to be ongoing, and that's setting good boundaries, right?
Good for you.
And I've been
It's
talking about
hard.
it a lot, yeah. And I need to talk less and do more. But it's hard, right? It's hard to say no to things. It's hard to say no to
Yeah.
people. But I was just saying this morning. If you if you never say no, you don't have the ability to say yes to what is really going to serve you. And so it can be hard sometimes, right? We feel like we're
Mhm.
letting someone down or we're offending someone. Um, but we can't be all things to all people and we can't be all places. And so starting to say no a little bit more.
Good for you. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
thank you.
As long as you don't say no to me. No, I'm
Okay.
kidding. Sorry, just joking. Sorry. I know you're going to get that a lot. Um, hi, Walla. It's good to see you. I owe you an email. Or how do you job shadow in a virtual environment? I have tried this a few times. It is hard. It is hard. I invite people to virtual meetings, and usually I introduce them in the context of so and so is shadowing me, and then I also have to set expectations like you're not going to talk in this meeting. This meeting has these purposes, and usually what I do is I talk about the meeting. Here's what's going to happen in this meeting, and then we do a debrief afterwards and the context of what is happening in the meeting. So I would not say it takes more work. I don't think it takes more work. I think those conversations happen in the hallway to and from meetings when you're in person. So I would say it simply takes intentional work, intentional dialogue. So that's my own perspective on how to do it in a virtual environment. So I think we're running out of time. And but it sounds like setting boundaries, Melissa, was something that is resonating with folks in general. Um, and so that was a great call out. Maybe we can talk more about that later.
Absolutely.
Any last words around goals or words of wisdom for our community before we go?
No, I just want to thank everyone so much for spending this half hour with us. We really, really appreciate it. And I would just say, don't be scared of goals, right? I think,
Yeah.
I know for me personally, sometimes goal setting just brings back these memories of, very stressful times and they were tied to performance evaluations. And so they have this sort of negative connotation. But goal setting is really a gift that you give to yourself and that you give to your teams. So embrace it and use it as the gift that it is.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And I think so I agree. Everything you said was amazing and I love what you said about boundaries. I've got to do my own work on that as well. Um I'm totally putting you on the spot, but could we come back in January to talk about our goals? Okay,
Absolutely.
like
I
I
wasn't
think
prepared. I was like, oh no, what is she going to ask me? Yes,
yeah,
totally fine.
poor
Absolutely.
poor like and I just want to say to everybody, Melissa, like I am fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. And Melissa's like, we didn't talk about that. And it was just like they're just two approaches. And poor Melissa, gonna just say you were like the best sport ever.
Well,
So
you're fantastic. This was awesome.
all right.